You have to know your destination. Now, write this down. This is a guide. And just it's a starting place. Again, in Curbs, we get very articulate with our numbers and we really get precise. But as a starting place, use this rule of thumb. For every $1 million of net worth, not including your primary residence, but every $1 million of net worth, it could be $1 million in stocks, it could be $1 million in real estate, it could be $1 million in gold, it can be for something, but it's $1 million of stored value out there that's not in your primary residence. For every $1 million in conventional finance rules equals about $50,000 of non-working income or passive income. So that means when you're a millionaire, a net worth millionaire, you don't get to include your primary residence in there, but when you're a net worth millionaire, that's about $50,000 of passive income that comes from those investments. That's the income derived from that $1 million that's sitting somewhere in some market. So there, if you can live off $50,000 from that, plus maybe Social Security or something at a certain age, then all you need is $1 million. But most of us, and again, less than 10% of all Westerners have net worth of over $1 million. So 90% of us aren't going to get there. Not because we're not able to, it's because we're not doing what I'm teaching tonight that allows that to happen. I want everyone on this call to be in the 10%, and every one of you can be in the 10% to be a net worth millionaire. Once we can create our first million, then you create your second, and then you have $100,000 of passive income, and you're off to the races, easy peasy. That's what I teach everyone in my Curbs class how to do, is how to become that net worth millionaire so that they know that path, have that trajectory, and know that they're going to hit these numbers so that they can calculate even the date and time they're going to be financially free. But again, have to know those numbers. And a little rule of thumb, $1 million equals 50,000 of income, which will give you an idea of what's your destination. All right, step 2, shift number 2. This is the second step you need to take. And these are not mutually exclusive. Each of these work together, meaning you have to do all 4 of these. You can't choose 1 and 3 and leave out the others. And they all integrate. So they all work, even though they're distinct, they all work together, very integrated at the same time. And when you get good at one and get good at all of them, they start working together. And those synergies of all 4 of these working together, these 4 principles, these 4 behavioral shifts you're going to make, that's when money just starts growing. It just starts doubling and tripling and so on and so forth. But because it's the synergistic effect of all of these working together, but understanding them and applying them individually. All right, step 2 to getting off that month to month is what I call, you have to interrupt what's called Parkinson's law. Does anybody know what Parkinson's law of money is? Some of you do. In fact, I saw many of you previous Curb students that are in the chat. And if you're a previous Curb student, I saw Pat Etchegoin, Nanette, Twyla, Eddie Moreno, Teal, Sheena. You guys put in the chat what something about Curbs and just let everybody else know why how it changed your life and how transformational it is and even why you've come back here. And I want to let all of you know, or if you're alums of Curbs, the next Curbs class is starting. If you wish to go through it again and just dust off some of those skills, let Brad know, and we'll talk to you about this next class that's getting started. We're going to have quite a few alums in that. But yeah, so even as the alums that are coming back, is just to know that this money, it's a journey, and we're working on all these things, and we're constantly growing in this money thing. So once we get on track, it's a journey that we can always grow and improve on. And I think if there's any skill that we want to master and get better at, why not make it money? All right, so principle number 2, this Parkinson's law. So any of you alums maybe put in what the Parkinson's law of money is, if you want to help everyone else. But Parkinson's law of money states that that expenses will always rise to match income. Expenses will always rise to match income. When I heard this the first time, I mean, it was earth shattering for me. I'm like, oh my God, that explains everything. Wait, what? That's a law? No wonder. This just understanding the Parkinson's law can change your life, and you're getting it right here. And what I mean is called Parkinson's law. Let's pretend it's a law, it's a rule, it's etched in stone, it's truth. So if that's truth, that means no matter how much money you make, you're going to spend it all because expenses always twice match income. This happens so invisibly, insidiously, naturally, you don't even know it's happening. And this is why our entire working career, we can continue to make more money and never get ahead because we're victim to Parkinson's law. And every one of us is going to fall victim to Parkinson's law unless we know the law exists and we put things into place to keep us from being victims of the law. So we have to have what I call a wealth crusher. We need to crush the wealth crusher is Parkinson's law. And this is the one law that we're betraying that's keeping us from building our financial independence. So the corollary to that is not only will expenses always rise match income, but also states that what was once a luxury becomes a necessity. So what happens is that it happens so naturally that when we get out of college and we're making $50,000 a year, very quickly we go from eating rice and beans to eating up that $50,000. And we still feel like we're starving, but we're not a starving student anymore. Then we gain our skills, we work harder, we earn $100,000. Naturally, now we have $100,000 lifestyle and we're driving the same car as everybody else that makes 100,000. We're living in the same apartment. Maybe we're buying our same first house. Then we make $200,000 and we buy even if we haven't even a fancier car. Maybe we have two cars that have emblems on them. Maybe now we send our kids to private school. Now we're taking even nicer vacations and we're in that next social class. I work with a good portion of those that I work with are what I call variable income earners. So business owners, real estate agents, mortgage professionals, self-employed. We have these highs and lows, and we might have big commission months and lower commission months. But on an annual basis, our lifestyle expenses continue to grow. I'm working with a lot of real estate agents now, and real estate agents, man, it was booming over the last few years. And so the lifestyle increased. Everything got more expensive. The lifestyle got better. But now the commissions are lower. But do we want to now downgrade to the car that we had before the last car? Do we want to downgrade to the house before this last house? Do you want to downgrade and take lesser expensive vacations? No, we want our lifestyle to stay the same. So that's why it's really important that we know that we're going to overspend. So a lot of people are spending more than they're earning and even going into some debt right now because they've not reduced the cost of their lifestyle because they don't want to give up those luxuries that feel like it's an entitlement and have become a necessity. So spending everything you make is automatic, which is why just making more money is not the solution. You can have a $30 million contract with, being the next athlete, and you can spend that $30 million. It's called winning the lottery. They won the athletic lottery. Some people win the lottery, the Powerball lottery. But winning the lottery, again, almost everyone that wins a lottery ends up broke because they don't have wealth wisdom. They don't know how to keep it. They blow through the 30 million and they're broke and they're bankrupt as opposed to taking that 30 million and it could turn into 300 billion if they knew what to do with it. But most don't. So here's the secret to getting rich. Wait for it. Wait for it. The secret to getting rich is to spend less than you make. I'm on podcasts all the time, and people, the podcast hosts will say, Krisstina, like, what's the one piece of advice for being wealthy that you can share with our audience? And I'm like, spend less than you make. Not rocket science, right? Don't have to pay me $1 million a year for that one. Like it's not, I'm not sitting on Wall Street. It's not Wall Street intelligence. But this is the one thing that will make you rich. If you if you hold a commitment to spend less than you make from the day that you have your first paycheck. And if you don't do it with your first paycheck, do it for your first paycheck after tonight's conversation. You have to spend less than you make. So it's not about making more. It's about appreciating the money you have and powerfully managing what you've got. Period. Mic drop. End of story. You have to create that surplus, and you cannot wait till tomorrow. You cannot wait till you make more income. It has to start now if you're ever going to be into financial freedom. And this is how you do it. First of all, there's this money maxim. It's called wealth is created in the margins. And so we as wealthy, those that are in the wealth game, we understand money language and distinctions, and we study these distinctions. We know what these words mean. So when we're sitting around a table together, we have the same lingo, the same nomenclature. It's just like if we're a bunch of doctors sitting in a room, we'd be all having doctor words, and the layman wouldn't be able to understand what's going on. If we're all pilots in the room, we'd have our own, all the language that just only pilots know, and all the non-pilots wouldn't know half what we're talking about. So with money, we want to have a language with money. You need to talk about it. You want to sit around a table and have conversations with money in a class with people who love wealth and start having these conversations. That's why I love putting these groups together. Let's talk money, talk money, talk money. So part of that is in the money talk, it's to part of the understanding is wealth is created in the margin. And there's all sorts of margin in business. One of the most important margins is called a profit margin. So you need to know, what is your profit margin for your business? And the bigger your margin, usually the better. But when it comes to household finance, I teach something in Curbs that's called, we want to run your household like a business. And this is fundamentally how I teach money and household finance and wealth creation, different than anyone else I've ever listened to. And it starts with this mindset that wealth is created in my household. I want to be financially free. And to do so, I'm going to manage my money powerfully in my household. And my job is to be the CFO of my household and to create this wealth over time. And how I do that is I create wealth through the margin. And the margin is the difference between the money you make and the money you keep after your expenses. That's the margin. And what we need to know, what you need to know, what we figure out in Curbs, is it a 10% margin? Is it a 15% margin? Is it a 20% margin? Is it a 30% margin? You have to determine your margin based on, again, how much money you have today, how much money your future self needs for that future time, your future self that wants to, quote unquote, retire, be financially free. Is your future self 10 years older than you are now, 20 years older than you are now? Do you have 40 years to do it? But let's just say it's 20 years from now. Say you're 45 and you want to bust this out for 20 years and build your $5 million or whatever your number is, but you have to know your number. So if you're zero net worth, let's say you're zero net worth today, and let's just use an example that we wanted $2 million net worth in 20 years. And conventionally, if we put $36,000 away at a 10%, just using the most basic conventional finance, we can have that $2 million by the end of the 20 years. But what that means is that you need to know that you have to put away $36,000 a year to be able to hit that number by that target date. And that's your number. But you need to know, is your margin $36,000 a year? Is it $50,000 a year? Is it $15,000 a year? Is it $100,000 a year? But you have to know, because money and time work together, and you have to put your money to work so it can grow over that period of time. If you put zero in today, you're going to have zero for your future self 20 years from now. If you put in $10,000 today, it's $10,000 plus all the compounding that happens over that 10 years, which is the money your future self is going to have. So you're working today to take care of your current self, your current family, and current lifestyle, and to put money away so your future self can live and have working in it can have passive income that your future self will live off of. And your younger but more vibrant self has a lot more to give than our older self that gets a little bit more tired. So your wealth creator is you need to know your money margin. Again, in Curbs, we get very clear what that is so that we know what we're working towards and create a map to do it. Then you manage your expenses to make sure you always keep that gap. So if you're making $100,000 a year, and let's just say that um, that you need to put $30,000 away, that's your margin, then that means your expenses can't be more than $70,000 after taxes. And this is after taxes. So the mindset around that, again, these are behavioral shifts. So you have to know your number to start off with. Otherwise, you're never going to have it. You have to know your number. But if your number you determine is $30,000, then you need to manage your expenses to make sure that you always have that $30,000 that you're going to put away for your future self. And the way to think of this is like a trust fund. Do any of you have a trust fund? Have you ever known anybody that's had a trust fund? So clearly, I didn't have a trust fund, but I had a girlfriend in college who had a trust fund. Her uh, dad owned a casino in Reno, Nevada, and had set up a trust fund. And her name was Jenny. And Jenny was beautiful, and she drove her convertible BMW in college. And she'd buy rounds of drinks. We always did pitcher night, and she was very generous with her money. But I was always super envious because I had to work myself through college and all the things. And Jenny just life seemed pretty easy for Jenny. But Jenny's dad had set up a trust fund for when they got to college that paid for all their college and all their spending and yada yada yada. So Jenny, everything was paid for because her dad had put this money away. The interest that came from all those assets is what paid for her college experience. I didn't have trust funds, so I had to pay for it all myself. And so Jenny, where I was going to work, she got to have all that free time. So if your friend has a $100,000 trust fund, how is life different for you as opposed to your friend that has a trust fund? Your friend that has a trust fund, let's say their grandparents set up the trust fund and has these assets, and it just pays $100,000 a year, and your friend can't touch the principal and is guaranteed forever because the principal's set up out there that can't be touched. So what your friend, let's say Joe can do whatever he wants and spend $100,000 and not have to spend one time to do it because that money just drops in his bank account. Joe's life is different than our life because we have to go to work for that same $100,000. So he has all the time, all the peace of mind that all of his bills are, and he has all that time that he can do whatever he wants with his time because he doesn't have to go to work to earn that 100,000. So that's what we're creating for our future self is that trust fund. And we need to make sure that as variable income earners, that as our income goes up, there's always a margin between our expenses. So our income's up here, our expenses need to be here. So if our income goes up, our expenses can go up, but it's always keeping the margin. But if our income goes down, we need to manage those expenses. And this is how over our careers, especially as business owners, entrepreneurs, salespeople, those self-employed, we have up years and lower years. But we need to manage our money, manage our expenses according to our income, not the other way around. And then finally, ultimately, if it's that $30,000, let's say broken up into 12 months, say it's $2,500 a month, that $2,500 a month gets moved out of our main account and each month goes into our investment bucket, which is a separate account. So we pay ourselves first. You get the money out of the bank account. Pay yourself first, pay yourself first, pay yourself first. And that's wealth wisdom. Wealth wisdom says you pay your future self first before your current self can spend all the money because Parkinson's law is going to take effect. All right. This process ensures that your personal net worth continues to go up and up and up and up and up, regardless of the changes in your personal or business income. All right, this is what it looks like. And I call this the 3-part profit first business system. That is how you turn your income into net worth. And take a picture of this. This is 20 years of worth synthesized into one slide. And again, we go through all this in curbs and know all these numbers down to basically the dollar. But this is how we build this over the 12 weeks. But this is again how it all winds up. And if you're a business owner, you earn money. You have create this revenue, something called cost of sales. What's left over is called gross profit. You have these business expenses, and what's left over here is this profit in pink. If you're a business owner, this pink is then becomes your personal income, because as business owners, this is what we pay ourselves, is profit. So we move this profit and it becomes income into our household. So this is our business bank account. This is our household bank account. This is our business as a business. This is what I call our household as a business. It's our wealth creating business. That's the mindset that I want you to have. So now this is where we're spending our money. So this profit, in this case, let's say we paid ourselves $10,000 this month in profit from our business. So this pink here, we've already determined that we need to put $2,500 away of that $10,000, and we move it out and we move it over to this circle here, which is our investing circle, so that we can create future profit, which is future revenue streams from these other assets. But we move this money out of our household into over here, this other bucket, that then we're going to let this money accumulate, and this becomes our balance sheet. This becomes our net worth. So we manage the money in our business, we pay ourselves, we manage the money in our household, and ultimately we build assets that we end up managing. And that's what, and this is what I do today. So Wellthy, gosh darn it. So Wellthy is my business that here I'm managing all the money in my business, and is the business that we're here together today. I take the profit from my business and I pay my Krisstina Wise household here. And I keep hitting something. So this Krisstina Wise household, I take a piece of the profit out and I'm moving that profit into my investment bucket and buying assets. Now, over time, I have lots of properties, and these are examples. So I have passive income from property 1, passive income from property 2, passive income from investing in a company. And it's just all of these different multiple streams of income. And this is what I mean by multiple streams of income. One business, managing my household money, but investing that to create multiple streams of income. But this income, let's just say, I paid myself $10,000 into my household here, but I moved $2,500 over into my investing bucket. But let's just say this property created another $5,000 of profit. So I moved $10,000 from my business and $5,000 from this. So my household it got $15,000, and then you reinvest all this money back in. So this is where your money starts to grow, because as these grow, you reinvest all this pink back into this bucket here and keep moving money from over here. And it balloons and balloons and snowballs and snowballs. And all of a sudden you wake up one day and you're financially free. And it's really that easy, but you have to put it to work. So when you do this, you will always create a surplus